Hello everyone, in this video I want to talk about how to rig and animate a character using the Duik Angela script. And along the way you will learn how to prepare and design the joints of the character, how to skeletonize it, how to rig the skeletons, and in the end how to animate it with the help of walk cycle tool automatically. And create a walk cycle for it which doesn't require keyframes or tweaking the graphs. And for those intrigued by character rigging and seeking a comprehensive foundation encompassing character preparation, rigging, and creating different poses for the character, I can't stop recommending this course. But before I begin, I advise you to watch the video until the very end, so once and for all you will learn about the process of rigging and animating the character using the Duik Angela and walk cycle tool. And more importantly, you will learn about the problems you might face in this process and how to solve them as well. Because I talked about these problems and their solution throughout the video, especially at the end. And if you like more of these videos, don't forget to subscribe and be sure to like so that YouTube can show you similar videos for my channel or others. Okay, without further ado, let's get right into it. Alright, the first thing that I need to know is how to download the Duik Angela script, how to install it, and how to properly use it. Okay, to download Duik Angela, just Google the name first. Then click on Download Duik Angela, which will take you to their official website. Scroll down and click on this option. On the following page, you can download Duik Angela by clicking on this button. Once you've downloaded the file, simply extract it, navigate to the scripts folder and then to the scripts UI panels, and copy the Duik Angela file from here. Next, go to your After Effects install location and open the scripts folder, followed by a scripts UI panel, and finally paste the file here. After that, go to the Edit menu, then in Preferences, select General, and here click on Scripting and Expressions. Enable these three options to make sure your scripts and plugins work perfectly fine. After the installation, under the Windows menu, I simply enable Duik Angela. As you can see, it appears here. But if the panel is floating, just drag its name and place it wherever you want. Alright, as we take a closer look into the Duik Angela script, we can see a variety of panels. For example, here is the Bones or Structures panel. Here we can see a set of tools for rigging. Here are the controllers. This is automation, which includes tools for creating different animation, which at the end of this video, I'll be using the walk run cycle tool and create an automatic walk cycle for the character. The next one is the animation panel, which is for controlling the keyframes, graphs, and interpolations. Then the camera and the tools panel. And the command lines panel, which offers a set of very useful tools for us. Okay, to make the tutorial not very long, I'll get back to the job and I will only explain the tools we need in the process of rigging and animating the character during the tutorial. Alright, the next thing that you need to know is how the character that you want to rig must be made and designed so you won't face any problems while doing so. The first and most important thing you should know is that the joints of your character should be circular. Let me select the hand layer so we can see it better. As you can see, I created a circle for this joint and placed the anchor point of the arm layer in the center of the circle so that when the character's hand rotates, we will not have any problems in animating. This part too, as you can see as I rotate this, nothing goes wrong with the elbow because it's circular. And this part too. The same thing happens to the layers of the leg too. And for the shoes, I've separated the shoe into two parts. And as you can see, I've put the anchor point of the toes part right here. And it rotates like this. If you want to learn how to prepare a character for rigging step by step from scratch, just watch this video, because I've explained the preparation process for rigging in detail in this video. Now let's work on creating the bones for the character. Let me disable this option so the paths of the masks and shapes wouldn't be visible. Okay, for skeletonizing the character, we can do it in two ways. The first one would be I head over to the OCO panel, and here I open the humanoid option and double click on human simple. As you can see, this tool creates a full skeleton of a human, and then after that you have to match each one of these bones individually with each part of this character, which is pretty time consuming and difficult. I hit Ctrl Z. I go back to Duik Angela. And here there is another option called Human Advanced, which creates the same skeleton, except that it creates several more bones which will help you have more control over your character. Let it be created to better understand what I mean. As you can see, in this skeleton there is a new bone for the shoulders, a few bones are added to the spine, and another new bone for controlling the toes. Again, I hit Ctrl Z because I don't want to use these skeletons. After all, not only it's going to be time consuming, but also doing it manually is better and more professional. Well, I go to the bones panel, and here I use the humanoid option. I left click on it, and in the beginning I want to create a skeleton for these three parts of the hand. For that, I select the arm layers and make them solo, so I can work on them easily. I click on humanoid and I open the arm settings, and here I need a bone for the arm, another one for the forearm, and another one for the hand. So I check the three bones that I need here. I don't need any bone for the shoulder, so I uncheck the box. And I need these bones for the right arm, so I come here and click here and set it to right. Once that's done, I click on arm button. As you can see, it creates three bones, and I have to match these three bones to the arm. Previously, for doing this, we're using the snapping option and put the anchor point of this bone on the anchor point of the arm layer. For the next bone, we're doing the same. We had to find the anchor point of the layer and then put the anchor point of the bone on it, which this process was difficult and time consuming. However, in the latest version of Duik Angela, we don't need to do all of this. The Duik Angela itself does everything on its own automatically. You just have to pay attention that you have to select your layers based on the parenting hierarchy you made. So at first I select the arm layer, then the forearm layer, and then the hand layer, and then I click on humanoid. In the arm settings, I create the settings I want, and then I click on arm button. As you can see, the anchor points of the bones are automatically placed on the anchor point of the hand layers, and I don't need to waste a lot of time on matching them. Let me unselect the layers. Since the character is in side view and the other hand is in the same position, I don't need to create new bones for the left hand as well. All I need to do is duplicate these bones. For duplicating this skeleton, I have to use the Duik Angela tool, because if I use Ctrl D and duplicate them, there is gonna be problems. So I select the bones of the right arm, and in the bones panel, I click on duplicate bones option. As you can see, these new bones are created. I change the label color of these layers so they will be obvious. To fix the name of the layers as well, I go to the tools panel. Then in the text option, I hit on rename tool, and here I want to remove the last part of each name. For that, I enable remove the last option. And then I enter the number of characters that I want to remove from the end of the names here. It was 5 characters, so I type 5 here. And after removing the last 5 characters, I want to add this phrase at the end of the names. And then I hit rename. As you can see, the last 5 characters are removed, and then the text that I entered here has been added to the layer's name. Once that's done, it's time to create the skeleton for the leg. I solo the leg layers. Isolate them from top to bottom. I navigate to the bones panel, I click on hominoid and go to the leg settings. I set this to none. These bones are for the right leg, so I set this to the right one. And I need a bone for the toes as well, so I enable this and click on the leg button. After that, I just tweak this bone to match the size of the shoe. Then I select the layers of the left leg and I make them solo. I select them respectively. I go to Duik Angela. Hominoid, leg, it's for the left leg, and I need these 4 bones and click on the leg button. Now let's work on the body, neck and head parts. I make them solo. I need a bone for the body and another one for the neck and also for the head. For that I go to Duik Angela. I select the layers in order. First body, then neck and then head, and then I go to hominoid. Spine, I need a bone for the head, a bone for the neck, and then a bone for the hip, which I need to put it here. So I don't need a bone for the spine, so I set it to 0. And I hit on the spine button. I place this here. I change their color as well. Okay, once the bone setup is done, let's parent each layer of the character to their respective bones. For this, I start from the left hand layer. I click on this part and I scroll up. The layers that have B as their initials are the bone layers, so I look for the left hand and there it is. I click on it. This is now parented to layer 18, so the forearm should be parented to layer 19 and the arm layer to layer 20. I keep doing the same for each layer and parent them to their respective bone layers. Well, after parenting the layers, it's time for rigging. For that, all I need to do is click on Select Bones so that all the bones are selected. And then click on the R-Rig tool. Okay, after that, I go to Duik Angela. In the Bones panel, I click on Show Hide Bones so the bones would be hidden. Then I select the bone layers and shy them. Also, I don't need the controller of the neck, so I hide and shy it. For the body, I open the effects control panel and move it here. I do the same for the hip as well. I move it up so it won't be on the controllers of the hand. Alright, to test if the rigging process was successful or not, I move the hip controller and the character should move like this, which means the different body parts should be connected to one another well, and there would be no problem whatsoever in the joints, and everything would be working normally. If you noticed any problem in the rig you made, check 2 things. First, the anchor point of the layer should be exactly at the center of the joints. And the second one that you need to check is if the problematic layers is parented to its respective bone or not. Because in most cases, the problem lies where the layer isn't parented to its specific bone, or it's parented to another bone, and obviously enough, when you move the character, it doesn't move the intended way. Now let's work on animating the character using the walk cycle tool. Let me make the controller of the shoulder visible. And let me check if the name of the controller is correct or not. As you see, this is the controller of the left arm, however it's labeled as the right arm. I gotta fix that. Well, when I make sure that the names of the controllers are correct, I go to Duik and open the automation and expression panel and select the controllers and open the walk run cycle settings. As you can see here, every controller is recognized correctly. Only the torso and the spine controllers are empty. And that's because I haven't made any bone for the spine basically. And so logically there is no controller for the torso and the spine. There might be times in which the walk cycle tool hasn't recognized the controllers correctly. When that happens, you can easily click on this option and just select the controller assigned to that option. This is the right arm for the right hand, and the same for this one too. Now it's fixed. After you define the controllers, just click on the walk run cycle button. Well, I hide all the controller except for the body so I can see the character better. As soon as I hit walk cycle, there appears a controller, and in the FX control panel, I can see the walk run cycle effect. I go to the computation section, and here you can see some information about the walk cycle. The most important one is cycle duration, which basically says the walk cycle happens in how many frames. Right now it says 25, which means the walk cycle happens in 25 frames. So I limit the work area to frame 25 because from this point on the walk cycle just repeats. Well, the first option in the walk cycle is general motion, with which you can control the movement and stop of the character. If I set it to 0, the character stops, and if I set it to 100, it moves. Using the walk option, you can create a walk animation, and using the run cycle, let me set it to 100, you can create a run animation. And let me see, the cycle duration is 16 frames, so I go to frame 16 and hit the end button and see the run cycle. As you can see, it creates this kind of running for the character, which in my opinion, it cannot create it very well. For now, let's focus on creating the walk cycle. Again, I set the work area to 25 frames. Well, the first problem here is that the distance and gap between each step are really small. To increase this gap, I head over to walk cycle and increase the walk speed. I set it to 300, so the gap between each step would be increased. The next problem is that I think the swing of the body is too much, so I have to disable it. To do that, I open the body section and I set the hip swing to 0. Something to mention here is that when the character is in this pose, which is the contact pose, the body should be between the legs and the legs should be straight. So I select the body controller and adjust its position. And also when the foot of the character is lifting, I think it needs to go a little bit higher. That's why I open the walk cycle settings under the legs and I set the feet high to 50. So the foot goes higher. Let's watch the preview. Alright, this caused an issue, and that is here. The rotation of the ankle is too much. So to fix that, I decreased the feet's rotation. I set it to 50. I also think that the body should go higher a bit so the leg would be straight in this pose. Let's see. It's much better now. The next problem is that the arms don't move correctly, because when the right leg is in the back, the right arm should be forward, and it should move exactly in the opposite direction of the leg, which in the animation it's not like that. To reverse the swing animation of the arms, I go to the settings of the walk cycle. Under the arms, I change the arm swing from 20 to -20, so it reverses the swing. And now, as you can see, the right arm moves in the opposite direction of the right leg. I just have to tweak the rotation of the arm because the arm moves to the back more than it moves forward, while it should go back and forward equally. To fix that, I go to the animation data. Under the right arm, which should be for the right arm. Oops, this is for the left arm. So I head over to the left arm and I rotate it forward a bit. And now let's see how the animation is. As you can see, it's much better. The arm goes back and forth almost equally. Let me tweak the wrist as well. And if you want the forearm to move up more, you can change the left forearm however you want. But I prefer it like this. I do the same for the other arm as well. I make the layers solo so I can see it better. Well, I changed the right arm rotation to the back slightly, so the back and forth movement of the left arm is just like the other one. Alright, I think it's good, but if you're planning to create a more natural and realistic walk cycle for your character, don't miss out on this video, which I explain 3 simple principles for creating a walk cycle so you can create a natural walk cycle better. Well, the animation of the character is done. Just let me explain some of the options so that later on you won't face any problems. Under character, by using height, you can increase and decrease the taking steps speed. For example, if I set this to 200, as you can see the cycle duration is now 50 and the speed decreases. And the more you decrease this height, the speed continues to increase. For example, if I set it to 50, as you can see the cycle duration is now 12, which means every 12 frames the character does 1 walk cycle or 2 steps. I leave it as 100. The next important option that you need to know is the walk cycle option, which if your character is walking toward right, this option creates this by default. But if your character is facing toward left and you want it to walk toward left, you just have to put a minus before this number so the movement gets reversed. As you see, if your character was toward the left, you can reverse the movement the way I explained. Okay, I hit Ctrl Z. The next option is the time offset, which you can set the first pose of your character to start walking. This is the contact pose. You can, for example, set the starting pose to this one, which is the passing pose. Let me make the background layers visible and let's see how the animation turned out. And for the last point, if you want to use this rigged character later for your animation, or if you want to manually create a walk cycle for it, you have to delete the walk cycle tool. For doing so, isolate its layer and press the delete button. After that, by hitting on this magnifier icon, I get sent directly to the properties that have errors in their expressions. Then alt-click on the stopwatches so the errors get removed. As you can see, from 16 errors, only 13 remain. I do the same for others until all the errors get removed. As you can see, I've deleted all the expressions related to the walk cycle tool. And now the walk cycle is completely deleted. And to fix the rotation of the arms, you should go to its controller, FK, and set these values to 0. Do the same for the other arm too. And by changing the body controller, you can make the character stand straight. And then you can start animating from scratch. Thanks for watching.